Well, then you've heard one person's opinion about your book. Do you think this is something you had to get off your chest, as the review said?
Yes, I think it was something I had to get off my chest, but not in the sense that I was taking off a hair shirt. You know, it wasn't the kind of thing I just discarded because I wanted to be able to go to bed easier at night. Well, I want to go to bed easier at night too, but that's another problem. No, I wrote that, and it's really a third novel disguised as a first novel, and all the reviewers, as to be expected, fell for it. Because in Canada, people really can't accept the fact that anything good comes out of their neighbor's house. This is a particular Canadian failing. I'm not saying that this is good. I think it's good, but I'm not trying to be evangelical about it. I mean, the kind of reviewing, the attitude of the reviewers is a kind of head-patting review. You know, this is very good. This is his first novel. But in America, where they don't know that I'm a poet, they don't know it's my first novel, they don't know anything about it except it's a book between hard covers, the reviews have been much more objective and much less patronizing. It's a third novel, I promise you, future generations of readers and PhD students. It's a third novel disguised as a first novel, and it's very highly crafted and very highly disciplined, and everything I want to say is there. It's not just that first fine, careless frenzy.
Well, now, the point of it being autobiographical or not being autobiographical, I imagine it must be approached 3 times a day with meals to be asked whether this is really you or whether your friends have been deliberately included or excluded.
Well, if it came with meals, I would be a lot happier. Actually, it generally comes with a lot of hostility. The emotion is autobiographical because the only person's emotions I know about are my own. The incidents are not autobiographical. I apologize. I'm terribly sorry. I cringe before the tyranny of fact, but it is not autobiographical. I made it up out of my little head.
Well, now, the man who you depict as your hero, Breveman, in the book...
A miserable guy.
I wondered about that. I was going to ask you whether you really could identify with him, whether you thought he was a strong character or a terribly weak one.
I don't mind him. I don't mind him. I wouldn't mind having a talk or two with him. I wouldn't like to be him. I'm not him. He's someone I created to express a certain kind of feeling about my generation, about myself, and most especially about this city, about Montreal. I think he's an honest person. I think the things that happened to him, the obscenities involved with God, the women he went to bed with, the people he hurt, the people he wanted to love, the things he saw, are the things that happen to everybody. And the people who have criticized the book for obscenity or for a kind of disgusting exposure are people who have not looked honestly into their own lives and who want to read about things which are not true. Now, my book may be lousy, but it's true.
Well, now, you send your hero to New York, and he doesn't seem to fare any better there, even though the critics may be better down there.
Oh, no, because Breveman, my character, is not going to fare very well anywhere, and that's his charm. The point is that he's a kind of brilliant failure, and I think that's a good thing for anybody to be as a brilliant failure. I can't stand success; it's obscene.
Now, do you think that the people who are reviewing your book here and suggesting that it's not too bad for a young fellow, particularly someone from Montreal, and all other such very annoying phrases, do you think that these people are going to be any better disposed toward your book after they read the American reviews?
Well, look, you have to be very charitable to reviewers. They're very unhappy people who have generally failed in an art form that they would have liked to excel in. So that, especially in Canada, where there isn't even any standards of reviewing, let alone creative enterprise, you have to be extremely gentle and tender and pedagogical with reviewers. It doesn't do at all to be nasty at them, to fire off obscene telegrams as I occasionally do to them. I regret all these things because we really have to coddle them along and educate them. I'm not disturbed by anything any of the reviewers have said because I realize that I'm confronting an enormous ignorance as vast as our own country.
Well, you've mentioned that you were a poet and are a poet, in addition to being a writer of some prose. Indeed, this book itself strikes me as being written as a form of poetry, but probably you might disagree with this. Do you find, though, that the outlet for a poet here in Canada is just as bad, or just as little, or just as lacking?
This is a wonderful country to be a poet in because it's brutal, indifferent, abusive. I mean, the worst thing possibly for a poet is a kind of warm recognition and a sense of belongingness. I mean, the very essential quality of being a writer, a good writer, is to feel just a little alienated from everything around you, and that way you can get a good perspective. So Canada is a marvelous country because everybody's alienated from everybody else, and it gives a wonderful edge to everything. You see, we're alienated from the French from the Jews, Quebec from Canada, Westmount from Snowdon, St. Henry from Côte St. Luc. The point is that there are wonderful alienated feelings thriving in this country. Everybody's unhappy, or if they're not unhappy, they're dull. So that it's a wonderful place to write in.